You know, in the super fast-paced world of game streaming, first impressions, they aren't just important, they're literally everything. So today, we're going to dive into the rapid-fire review process of streamer Frosty ID and his taste testing series. This is where brand new games get just a few minutes to prove they're worth anyone's time.
When Frosty drops his classic, heat, 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 you know something's up. It's way more than just a catchphrase. It's his ultimate seal of approval. It's the sign that a game has passed the test. But how does he even get to that point? Well, we're going to break down his whole process, kind of like a food critic taking that very first crucial bite of a brand new dish.
So why is this whole taste test thing such a big deal? Well, it's because it's not some deep dive 100-hour review. It's a gut check, an evaluation that happens right then and there, in real time. For a small indie developer, a good taste test can mean instant discovery, but a bad one? That can mean just fading away. The pressure is on from the second the game boots up.
Okay, so what really makes or breaks a game in those first few critical moments? What is he actually looking for? Well, it turns out it pretty much boils down to a few key phases, and it all starts with the very first thing you see.
All right, first up, the first impression. This is all about the presentation, the hook. A game has mere seconds to grab your attention and prove it respects your time. It can either pull you right in with a compelling start, or it can push you away with a confusing one. And you can see a perfect example of this right here. On one side, you have a game like Depersonalization, which immediately throws up a wall with an experience he just found jarring and unclear. But then on the other hand, Alias Impact just hits you with this loud, dramatic opening before it settles into this really lovely music. It's a calculated experience, and it creates intrigue right away.
I mean, this quote really says it all, doesn't it? If the player feels like they've already made a mistake or are just totally lost in the first couple of minutes, the game has failed a huge test. Clarity is absolutely king. A confusing start means that taste test is already going south fast.
Okay, so let's say a game gets past that first hurdle. Now it's time for the first bite, the core gameplay. This is where the critic gets a sense of how the game actually plays.
Now, feel, that's a tricky one, right? It's not something you can just put on a spreadsheet, but you know it when you see it. It's the responsiveness of the controls, the impact of your attacks, the whole rhythm of combat. Does it feel clunky and slow, or does it feel snappy and satisfying?
And you know, his playthrough of Maliki is the perfect example of this. At first, he was totally lost, getting frustrated by the combat. But then, as he kept playing, something just clicked. He started to get the mechanics, the timing, the strategy. The game started to feel good.
And boom, that's it right there. That's the breakthrough moment every developer is praying for. It's when a system that seems challenging suddenly becomes rewarding. This aha moment, where the gameplay just makes sense and feels great, is a massive, massive win in any taste test.
But look, you can have the best mechanics in the world, but if the game's world is just boring or the story is a total drag, a streamer's attention is going to wander, for sure. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the vibe check.
And this is where a game's world can either totally shine or just fall completely flat. Take Splintered, for instance. Frosty points out how the story just becomes a chore, repeating the same points over and over, killing the momentum. But then you have Affinitis Impact, where the weird, off-the-wall dialogue makes the world feel unique and keeps him hooked. Just wanted to see what crazy thing is going to happen next.
I mean, a line like this, you're not going to forget that, are you? It shows so much personality and a real confidence in the game's tone. This kind of quirky, memorable writing can be that secret ingredient that takes a game from just good to great, and it leaves a real lasting impression.
So, you've got the hook, you've got the gameplay feel, and you've got the vibe. How does all of that come together for the final grade? Well, the verdict is really a rapid-fire combination of all three. Just look at this table, it lays it all out perfectly. Affinitis Impact totally nailed the hook and the vibe, and it gets an S tier, the best you can get. Meanwhile, Depersonalization's confusing start really hurt it, landing at a C. You can see how Malaki fought back from a rough beginning with great gameplay to hit A tier, while Sacred Earth Reverie was a pretty solid game but held back by its stilted dialogue. There's a direct line from those first few minutes to the final score.
So what this all really shows us is that the taste test isn't just some random, off-the-cuff thing. It's a process. A game has to nail its opening moments, it has to offer a core gameplay loop that feels rewarding, and it has to create a world that's actually interesting to be in. If it can do all three, it passes with flying colors. And that kind of leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it?
In a world where there are thousands of new games coming out all the time, this kind of instant judgment is becoming more and more powerful. It makes you wonder, for a new game just trying to make its mark, is this 5-minute taste test becoming the most important review of all?